Dub Maddox, the great Dub Maddox, said this one time in a text message, and it is one of my favorite things anybody's ever said in coaching. I told him I might get it tattooed. I'm not going to, but simplicity is everyone's battle cry, but often it's a shield to hide behind the work required to master complexity.
Welcome to the Passing Lab on the Coach and Coordinator Network. One of the things we've always tried to do at the Coach and Coordinator Network is bring you conversations that make you think differently about coaching football. For the last 3 seasons, Josh Herring has done exactly that with the Passing Lab podcast. He's brought on some of the best passing game coaches in the country to talk philosophy, concepts, and the why behind what they do. But after almost every episode, we'd hear the same thing from coaches. I love the conversation, but can I see the film? That's exactly why we created the Passing Lab Smart Clinic. Instead of asking coaches to cover 3 or 4 different topics in 45 minutes, we ask each coach to take one subject and go as deep as possible. Show the film, explain the install, walk through the teaching progression, cover the adjustments. Give coaches something they can actually take back to their programs. Before we tell you more about the Passing Lab Clinic, I want you to hear a segment from Josh Herring's opening presentation because I think it perfectly captures what this clinic is really about.
Okay, we're going to start off in this clinic just talking about a big picture, deep dive. How do we design, teach, install a passing game? What are the things that go into on a year-to-year basis, trying to decide what it is that you run? There's an amazing amount of really cool stuff out there. You can watch more film, more game film, more cuts, more presentations, more clinics than ever before. But how do you decide what's really good for you and not just a bunch of cool plays that you see online? And kind of I based a lot of this on things that I wish, when I started as a coordinator at 24 years old, a long time ago. What are things that would have helped me and things that I sort of wish I knew? We certainly don't know it all. But I have been exposed to some good coaches and some guys that have been great mentors and kind of thinking through this. And this is just our process and sort of how we do it. So hopefully it ends up being helpful for a lot of you guys. So we're just going to jump right into, I think it's really, really important to have an understanding of your football ecosystem. Now, that's a big word, but really all I'm talking about is you got to know who you are and where you are and what your competition is. So I've got a couple things to just sort of go through, but how is your program set up? Here in Georgia, football is a big deal. And it's pretty much year round, which has good and bad that goes with that. But our program is set up to where in some ways we're working, at least seeing our kids on a daily basis throughout the year. There are places that I've been where we literally had a football class. We don't currently have that. That is completely far removed from a lot of people's experience. Okay. You may be at a program where you only get to see your kids literally, right before the season starts. There's different stuff from state to state, but that's going to matter how your program is set up and all the stuff that you do in your football ecosystem. Who are your opponents? The competition that you face. I have been at places where if you beat your rival, okay, like pretty much regardless of what the rest of your record is, people are going to be okay. And I've been at places where for you not to compete for a region title or potentially even a state title is going to be rough on you in the community. So who are your region and district opponents? How good is your region? Who is it you have to beat? Again, for some of you that may be a rival, but some of you are trying to win your region or your district. You're trying to win a state title. Some of you, maybe you're consistently competing for that. You haven't been able to get over the hump. Everybody's got a different environment. That goes into what you decide to do as an offense overall, and especially the passing game as well. It's not just something where, hey, this play or this idea is for everybody in America. You've got to know a lot about your football ecosystem. And I think this is mostly passing game oriented, but I think some of the stuff I'm going to touch on actually gets into things that are just offensive principles, period. So what are the defenses that you see? If there are defenses that you see that play nothing but man coverage all year long. Okay. Cover 1, cover 0, bring in the pain. that is going to be a different look for you than what a lot of people see. And so that is going to be a factor in the sort of presentation that you're going to have offensively. That stuff matters. And a big part of the early part of this talk is everybody talks about simplicity. Twitter is really big right now in the coaching profession. It actually has a lot of influence, or X, I guess I'm supposed to say now. And what you have with these little short tweets sometimes is a lack of nuance. And a lot of people, you go on coaching Twitter sometimes right now, and I feel like you're getting these, Zen cones where these people say these, 2-sentence phrases that are supposed to be really deep, but it's about something that has gray area that they're making to be really black and white. And so everybody's always talking about simplicity and basically how you're dumb if you're not simple. But what does simple mean for you? Because what simple means for us in our situation may not be what simple means for you. That is a program to program thing. And so when people say things like, keep it simple, stupid, and all the other things that we hear, what does that even mean other than just being something that's on a poster somewhere? So we're going to kind of go into that and talk about, well, what is being simple? Like, what does that mean? So when you have different ecosystems, you're going to have to adapt in different ways, just like animals would adapt in a different way to the ecosystem that they live in. Okay. So for me, it comes down to this: as an OC, can your system provide answers for your opponents and maximize your talent regardless of school? Because if you do, then you have a good system that can travel, and it has an ability to do things from place to place that maximize the skill sets of your players without necessarily having to change everything. Okay. Like, our job as coaches is to max our kids out. That's really what we're here for, to get the absolute best out of them. And does your system provide the ability to do that? And if it does, then you can go from place to place, and you're not going to have to radically change a whole lot. Okay. You're going to want to always accentuate the talents of your kids, but are you going to have to completely change terminology and structure and the way you lay everything out as you go from place to place? And so I think the key to all this is teaching is the key. Okay. I've been saying this in clinics for a while. Everybody today has access to limitless film. They're not the secrets that there once were. There have even been people that have tried really, really hard to keep things a secret. That is not going to last very long. Okay. I was in situations a few years back where, I felt like if I talked about deep choice, guys were going to threaten to take me out. Okay. And people try to keep things secret as long as they can so they can have an edge. But we're in a game that's all about peer review. And if your stuff is really good, okay, it's going to have defensive coordinators look at it, scheme up against it, do their very best against it. And eventually it's either going to hold up or it's not. So everybody has access to all the same stuff. There's been this big leveling of the playing field, and there's just not the secrets that there were. So we have to be better teachers than our opponent. I tell our guys as coaches, if we were to have the exact same system rolled out offensively as the other team, and we had the exact same amount of plays, the exact same call sheet, and this is all we can do, could we outcoach those guys? Okay. Could we teach our stuff that's the exact same as theirs better than they do? And if you think about it from that perspective, it gives you some autonomy as a coach to go, all right, this is something I can control. I can't control necessarily who my athletes are, at least in most programs. There's a lot of other things that are outside my control, but I can try and be as good of a teacher as possible. And that's one of the things that I think we strive to do every day. And it's a constant ongoing process where you can't just get settled and say, this is just what we do and how we're going to do it forever. One of my favorite quotes is from Bill Walsh. There's an incredible book that he wrote, The Score Takes Care of Itself. Teaching defines your leadership. How good a job you do, whether it's cultural, systematic, whatever part of your program, getting that across, the teaching is going to define who you are as a leader. So we want teaching to be at the forefront of everything we do as coaches. How are we going to teach these things? We have this big picture idea. How we're going to make it happen. So we feel like, in comparison to some high school offenses, we're pretty high volume. There are others that have a lot more stuff than we do, but we think we can make the system learnable and simple for the players. And that's what you're actually looking to do. You don't want to just be simple because it sounds good to say on Twitter, hey, you should do less stuff. Well, that doesn't mean the same for everyone. Okay. So every single thing we do on offense starts with this process of, how are we going to teach this? Okay. How are we going to teach this? If we have a great idea and we feel like it looks great on the board and it looks like it's going to translate to film, awesome. How are we going to get that across to the kids who don't watch the film that we do, who don't watch as much of it, who don't even watch high school, college, NFL games on TV sometimes, maybe watch, some reels of football, but like it's not their deal. Kids have changed. How are we going to teach this? Does this make sense within our current structure? That's a question we ask all the time. Are we having to really reteach a lot of stuff in order to get this in? And how is this going to impact things that we're already teaching or doing? Is this going to mess with other things that we've already taught? Is this going to bend rules that are ingrained in our system? We have to think through that stuff. So just a couple common ways to look at this, and I know this is going to be passing game oriented, but this really applies to all offense. Sort of the way I was taught this as a really young coordinator, and I had good mentors, is the base counter contingency ideology, okay, or plan. And it's the same thing you see with really good systems like the wing T that have answers built in. We're going to have our base calls that are who we are. And we want those to be attitude calls. They don't have to be great, but they got to be decent versus everything where we don't feel bad when we call this, okay? And we're going to talk about some of those passing ideas when it comes to this. You want things that you don't feel bad about calling. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but you don't go back and say, I really wish I'd called something different. It's our best stuff. We're going to carry and do every game, okay? Then we're going to have our counters off that base stuff. So, and this can be passing game tags or wrinkles that you add, but a counter call, you're protecting your base and you're attacking a weakness. How's the defense going to take away your base call? Okay, this counter is going to attack that thing. And then we have a contingency plan, which is what are they giving up if they truly sell out and they're doing a great job of saying you will not get this base. Okay, your base stuff, we have the ability, our players are good enough, our scheme is good enough, we're going to stop your base. Do you have an emergency plan? Okay, and this fits right in with another idea. I don't know who came up with this. I wish I could give them credit. I heard this a long time ago. I've heard a couple of different coaches talk through. But you can see iced tea on the screen. But the idea of an iced tea, this is really, really close. If you're familiar with, the great coaching staff at Bixby, which has their fastball, change up curve, sort of strikeout methodology. A lot of people are doing stuff like this. A long time ago, it was introduced to me as iced tea. So you have an initial or base play. You have your counter. You have an explosive now that's a way to attack the D that's trying to sell out to stop whatever your base is, okay? And then you've got possibly a trick play, which you don't always have to have. And you can apply this somewhat to the passing game too, where you have a base pass and then you've got something that's going to attack the reaction, and we're always looking to generate explosives. So hopefully your pass plays have explosives built into them, but sometimes you're really trying to take a shot and for sure generate something down the field. So that's sort of a way, that's two different ways, very generic, but of thinking through offensively how you're going to decide how to put in stuff. This is really good with young coaches too, to sort of give them a structure of this is the way we think offensively. So don't just suggest a play because you saw it and it was cool on TikTok, but does it fit within this structure? Is it a counter to something we're already doing? So, hey, coach, I know we run a lot of counter. So counter GT and, counter GY or GH. Okay, well, I saw this and I think this really fits in with that, fits our rules, and can generate an explosive if we tag this RPO or we have this play action. So it builds in a way to think as a coaching staff about the stuff that you're doing. I think it's really good. Maybe my hot take section of this, before we get even deeper into the weeds, is just some thoughts on volume, because this is a huge thing that you see online all the time. But, logically, less is not more and more is more. Okay, but when people say less is more, that's not what they mean. They don't just mean you should have less. They don't just, logically, if you're really good at buck sweep and you're really good at trap and you're really good at belly and you've got this series, if you're good at all those things, that's better than if you're just good at trap, and people can take that away, right? So logically, less is not more, more is more. But when people say that, it's the assumption that by doing more, you're automatically worse at other stuff, okay? You want to be as good as many things as you can be because it makes you harder to defend. But the problem is, as coaches, you have to figure out what the answer for your program is. And that's the struggle. That's why we're coaches. That is not going to be the same at every program. And that's why you have to think through, what's my ecosystem? Okay, Kirby Smart talks a lot about having a big toolbox. Anybody that's familiar with their defense knows they have more stuff, than anybody. And he says we're not afraid to do that, and it gives us answers in tough situations. Steve Sarkisian, it sounds so simple, but he said the more you do really well, the harder you are to defend. But the one I really like is Albert Einstein saying everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Okay, we want it to be as simple as possible, but we don't want to get this thing so dumbed down that we become easy to defend. And I wish I could just tell you this great magic answer that you should have this many runs and this many passes, but that doesn't exist. That's a program to program thing that you should constantly be evaluating in your program.
This episode is presented by Modern Football. If you're still charting games by hand, Modern Football can modernize that process. Instead of spending precious time deciphering your charts before planning the next series, Modern Football lets you tag just a few key pieces of information and instantly gives you the reports you need to make adjustments on the sideline. Coverage tendencies, pressure tendencies, formation data, situational reports, drive reports. It's all organized in real time, helping you move through your call sheet and stay one step ahead of the defense. It's less time sorting through that data between series and getting you right to the plays you'll call next. Learn more or schedule a demo by visiting the link in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the passing lab.
So, Dub Maddox, the great Dub Maddox, said this one time in a text message, and it is one of my favorite things anybody's ever said in coaching. I told him I might get it tattooed. I'm not going to, but simplicity is everyone's battle cry, but often it's a shield to hide behind the work required to master complexity. Okay, like sometimes you got to work, and sometimes it's tough, and you've got to push through things and be a great teacher in order to make complex things seem simple. Okay, whether it's running a triple option offense, whether it's running option routes in the pass game, like it's really easy to say just be simple, simple, simple and knock people over the head. We all want to be simple as possible, but sometimes that's just a way to just hide and be lazy, if we're being honest. Okay, how much can you be good at before diminishing returns set in? That's what less is more really means. Like, we want to do as much as we can, be good at, but when we hit that point where all of a sudden we've got too much and it's impacting our ability to execute the things we do have, that's when you have to stop. The problem is that requires work and analysis for us as coaches, and there's not just a perfect blueprint, as much as people might like to say that in a cool, 2-sentence tweet. So, how much can you be good at before cost benefit starts to get messed up and you start to have diminishing returns set in? Okay. So, like for us, what's simple? What does that mean? I really like this definition of what simple is when people say, well, we want to be simple. Simple is a system that's learnable for your players, if that's a real word, but you want your players to be easily able to take this information in and execute it. It's learnable. It makes sense to them. It allows them to execute at a high level, and it's got to have answers. Because it's easy to just say, as a coach, we're going to be as simple as possible so our kids can play fast, but anybody that's better than you, you don't have a shot. I have a real problem with people that immediately just go to, well, their players are better than ours. If you never beat somebody better than you, then that's problematic as a coach. At some point, it's hard to do, but at some point, like, you should upset somebody. Like, coaching does become a factor in our game, and that's one of the great things about our game, is coaching still does matter. So, do I have answers for all the teams on our schedule? In my simplicity? I think that's something you have to think through. So for us, simple can be sophisticated. Like, because something is sophisticated doesn't mean it has to be complicated. This is not rocket science, what we do. But you can take things that are relatively simple and easy to learn for your kids that have some sophistication, have some answers for a variety of things. And I think that's doable. We talk about language. Think about in any language a small amount of letters and how much sophistication you have there and what you can do with those letters. Well, a system, if it's a modular system that's like Legos and you can build stuff and you can use things in a multitude of ways, then think about how sophisticated that can be. You can do a lot of stuff. You teach one route that in the passing game that all of a sudden has validity in all sorts of different pass concepts that you have. It's simple. Kids keep doing the same thing over and over, but you're building it in different ways that look different to the defense. And so you get a sophistication there.
I love that perspective because Josh really gets into the heart of the issue. Today, coaches have access to more football information than ever before: film, cut ups, clinic videos, social media, podcasts. The challenge isn't finding ideas, it's figuring out which ideas actually fit your players, your staff, and your program. And that's exactly why we built the Passing Lab. After recording this session, I sat down with Josh about why we wanted to turn the Passing Lab into a smart clinic and what coaches can expect inside.
You've been running the passing lab now on the podcast for 3 seasons, and one of the things we've never had was the ability to take a look at film and video, and that's kind of what's at the heart of this is there are some past guests and guys digging into things as they've done on the podcast before, but now we're going to really dig into it on video and some of the philosophy behind it, and really the details that you just can't get in a podcast. So tell us a little bit about how this is an extension of what we've done so far and what the expectation is from the different guests who you bring in and panelists you bring on to this clinic.
All these guys do a great job of talking, kind of explaining stuff to you on the passing lab clinic. But the thing is, people still want film. And we constantly get requests, or we get guys to reach out and say, hey, I really enjoy that concept, but, can I watch this? Can I see this? And so this is really a chance for these guys to deep dive into some of the concepts that they talked about on the passing lab, and to even go further than that, where it's really, I think, after watching these videos, this is an easy install where people could just go by numbers and put these things in because of how good a job these guys do explaining their stuff.
Tell us a little bit about the guys you've selected and why you've had each of those guys presenting here.
We've had some unbelievable guests on the passing lab. These guys are guys that are willing to share everything they've got. There's no secrets with them. That's one of the reasons I loved, selecting these guys and having these guys talk about the stuff that they're doing. We've got Drew Ambrose, who's very successful in Wisconsin, who was on the first season of the passing lab. That's going to go over several things that he talked about in the passing lab. We've got the Mississippi legend, Herbert Davis, who's going to talk about all the stuff they're doing at Madison Ridgeland with just unbelievable stuff with tempo in the passing game and option routes. Really good stuff. Pete DeWeese, his head coach at Cambridge High School in Georgia, was on the passing lab, and he's the OC. And they're great at throwing curls, conversion down digs, a lot of things that guys at the high school level are really interested in. They do a great job, and he's going to talk through some of those things that Tyler talked about on the passing lab. We've got the great Brady Walz, who's one of the nation's experts on the levels concept, and he talked about that in the passing lab episode, and then he's going to deep dive into 3 different phases of levels route. So I could not be more excited about these guys and the clinics that they're presenting.
And with this clinic and the clinic format we've been using is we want guys to dig deep, giving multiple presentations on their topic, and then overall really you see some depth in this clinic, which in most clinics you get you get the surface level stuff. You might get some guys speaking on multiple topics, but rarely do you get like a deep dive into one topic, which you're going to see here. How do you feel that's an advantage?
Well, I think if I was a young coordinator, you go to a clinic, you see something you think is really cool, and especially back in the day, you didn't really have access to all this stuff. But even today, in going to clinics or watching guys online when they do, a 50-minute presentation, you get some things, but you don't really understand the answers that you need, the adjustments, how is it installed, the big picture. And I think these guys deep diving in these clinics, like this becomes something that is an instant install where you have all the steps that you need to go in with your kids, in the summer and going into fall camp and fully install these plays. I think that's one of the best things about it.
Those are all on demand. So those are, as we speak, many of those have been submitted and being put into the ticket. So when you buy the ticket, they'll be there. We have live sessions. So the idea is interaction, and these have been successful in our smart clinics. The first being a roundtable, getting all of these guys together, your panelists together, and really digging into what each other does, digging into the passing game in general. And I think that's where a lot of ideas are shared. There's clinic talk, and then there's the talk which you would get the same type of thing sitting around the bar after the clinic.
Right. I think, having roundtables with these guys in real life anyway is something that I've experienced. And so they're really good at it. I've never talked to a single one of these guys and not gotten a ton of information. But we've got several topics we're going to look at, and we're going to do everything from evaluate volume and what you really need. We're going to talk about situational issues. We're going to talk about actual scheme as far as, where are we at today with verticals, 4 verts, or where are we at with Y cross, or where are we at? So some of the big picture things that people are constantly thinking about in their pass game, you're going to hear guys that are some of the best in the profession talking their way through their thoughts and how they run it or don't run it and why. And I think the why is the big picture that we're all looking for.
And then we get into finally the last night of this is the workshop, which is, think of it as problem solving, bringing some ideas to the table. Again, it's very much in the spirit of the roundtable of guys sharing like that, but now we get a little bit more into the details and sharing some ideas, whether that's on the whiteboard, sharing a film clip, etc.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about the workshop idea is you are hearing guys in real time work through problems with each other. I think it's something, not just if there's a concept you're really into that we're talking about, I think that's great. That's awesome. But I think one of the best things for a coach is to be able to just see the process of these guys wrestling with ideas and talking through, okay, well, here's the problem we face. How do you handle this? Okay, that presents this new problem. What do you do about that? And actually seeing people work through the process in real time, I think is just very valuable for any coach.
Well, Josh, I'm really looking forward to it. We take what we've had going on in the Passing Lab podcast. Now we're bringing it to life in the Passing Lab clinic. And I think there's a lot here for coaches. A huge value right now. If you just want to get access here before the season, 60 days, $39. You want lifetime access to be able to keep these materials. We're doing it for $79. We really want to get coaches into this new format here in our first year, and we're excited to have the Passing Lab as part of it.
Yeah, really excited about it.
One of the things I'm most excited about with this clinic is the group of coaches we've brought together. Every presenter in the Passing Lab coaches high school football. I think that matters because these aren't ideas with unlimited meeting time and scholarship athlete. These are the systems that have been developed, installed, and refined by coaches winning on Friday nights with high school players. So let me introduce you to the lineup, starting with Josh Herring, who is our Passing Lab host. He's the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Lassiter High School in Georgia. He opens the clinic by walking through how he designs, teaches, and installs an entire passing game before showing how he enhances traditional concepts through stack formations. Let's listen to his overview of the clinic.
Hi, I'm Josh Herring, offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Lassiter High School in Marietta, Georgia, and also host of the Passing Lab podcast presented by the Coach and Coordinator Network. And we're going to have for you this summer our very first Passing Lab Smart Clinic, where we've got some great speakers, some guys that have been on the show, and some new faces. Really excited about you guys getting to see it. I'm also going to clinic and have 3 sessions. The first one is just about designing and then teaching and installing a passing game, just kind of a broad overview about the way we think about the passing game and then how we teach it to our kids. And then we're going to sort of apply that with 2 different sessions about how we take our normal passes and then apply them to stack sets, both with and without motion, something that's been really good for us. So hope you guys enjoy it. Really looking forward to bringing this to you.
Next is Drew Ambrose, the head coach at Franklin High School in Wisconsin. Drew has built one of Wisconsin's premier programs by creating hybrid passing concepts that give multiple looks while keeping things simple for his players.
Hey, everybody. I'm Drew Ambrose. I'm the head coach at Franklin High School in Franklin, Wisconsin. I just want to start off real quick saying thanks to Josh and Keith for inviting me to be a part of this. Very humbling with this group of guys. We've got a lot of really, really great football minds that are a part of this, and I'm honored to have been one of the guys that they felt was qualified to be here. A little bit about myself. So I graduated from the University of Wisconsin La Crosse in 2008. Got my first coaching job a few years later at Indian Trail High School in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is between Milwaukee and Chicago. Spent 6 years there. Then I spent 1 year at Racine Case High School, and then I've been at Franklin for the past 7. I've been an offensive coordinator for the past 10 years, so in a combination of all 3 of those places. But over my time at Franklin and a couple years before that, since 2016, our program is 105-13 in that time. We've been to the state title game 3 times. We won it in 2021. We were the state runner-up in 2023, and they were also state runner-up in 2016 before I got here. But we've been to at least the state quarterfinals 6 of those 7 other years. So we've had a lot of really good success recently. A lot of great players that have went on to the next level as well. My plan here with these clinics is to take you through how we've been able to be really multiple in our passing game and create hybrid concepts that allow us to give the defense a lot of looks, but keep it fairly simple for our kids. We're able to keep progressions pretty clean, keep protections the same. Receivers don't need to learn a ton of different things. But it presents a completely different picture to the defense. So a little bit of background about the state of Wisconsin, some context here to why we had to go down this path. Wisconsin, prior to 2025, only allowed us 5 contact days with our team in the off season. So we had to be really creative with our install time and find ways to come up with concepts that were going to work against all of the different things that we were going to see. So that kind of necessitated us going down this path. But I think you'll see we've had quite a bit of success over that time. I think we've been probably top 3, at least in terms of passing yardage and completion percentage, touchdowns in that time frame. So we've had a lot of success, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys. So let's get rolling.
Next up is Herbert Davis, the head coach at Madison Ridgeland Academy, a multiple-time state champion. Over the past 7 seasons, Herbert Davis's offenses have averaged roughly 3,500 yards per game passing while developing 4 different quarterbacks. He'll take you inside the option routes, vertical choice concepts, and tempo mechanics that have made MRA one of the most explosive passing offenses in the country.
Hello, my name's Herbert Davis, head football coach at Madison Regional Academy, Madison, Mississippi. Going into my 13th year of coaching here as head football coach. We've had some great years here and a very great football program here because we got great administration, and we're excited about the upcoming year. Just a little background, we're going to talk about some passing game. We're going to talk about this year we ran a lot of underneath option routes. We're going to talk about our option routes this year, and even off of the RPO, we ran some option routes. The vertical choice has been great for us through the years, but we're going to talk about vertical choice switch routes. We call them switch and swap. And then a lot of people always want to know about how we do our tempo. So we're going to talk about the mechanics of our tempo offense that we run, up tempo. Just a couple of nuggets. Over the last 7 years with 4 different quarterbacks, we've averaged right at 3,500 yards per season throwing the football. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll get something that'll help you in the upcoming football season.
Next, we have Coach Pete DeWeese, the offensive coordinator at Cambridge High School in Georgia. Pete shares the concepts that have helped Cambridge consistently develop outstanding quarterback play, from half-field concepts and tags to dig and curl packages and attacking the sidelines.
My name is Pete DeWeese. I'm the offensive coordinator at Cambridge High School in Milton, Georgia. Been a part of this program for 2 years now, going into our 3rd season. When Coach Tyler Jones took over this program a couple years ago, he brought me in as his offensive coordinator, and we've been very fortunate to have a lot of success. Coach Jones is a very accomplished play caller. The rest of our offensive staff is very knowledgeable, very experienced, and together and collectively, we've been able to do a lot of really good things. Obviously, being blessed to have great players has been an important piece to the puzzle. Having the support of an administration that wants to see our program and our kids thrive have all been part of our success. In the past 2 years, we've gone 19-6. Both years made the playoffs and been able to pocket a couple of wins. Our quarterback play has been really strong. We believe in unlocking the quarterback and empowering him to make plays in the offense. We're a heavy RPO system that's obviously not afraid to drop back and throw the football. Our first year in the program, we had a senior quarterback, a complete shift in offensive philosophy, a young man that only had 1 or 2 starts under his belt as a varsity quarterback. And we were able to throw for 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns. He was number 2 in the state in passing, led 4A, which is the level that we've played in the past 2 years. He graduates, walks out the door in this most recent season. We inherit another senior quarterback, a young man that actually came from a different program. So again, all new system, and he threw for just over 2,600 yards, another 33 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions, and really engineered our offense. We think we do a good job of developing quarterbacks. We think that our system gives us a lot of variation in the way that we can attack defenses. And we think that the way that we teach this system really allows our players to go out and be confident and be successful. In these clinics, I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. I'm going to talk about using half-field concepts and tags to create full-field reads for your quarterbacks. We're going to talk about the power of dig and curl concepts to both convert the sticks and exploit defenses and create explosives. And then we're going to talk about attacking the sidelines. I think a lot of times high school coaches are afraid to really let their quarterbacks attack the sidelines. They think that certain throws require big arms. And we're going to talk about how we can attack the sidelines with the focus on timing and understanding more so than being worried about the kind of power that the high school quarterback can generate with their arm. Look forward to sharing these things with you and hope you can gain some things to help you in your program.
We round out our lineup with one of the foremost experts on levels in the country, Brady Walz. He's the tight ends coach now at Dowling Catholic High School, perennial powerhouse in Iowa. If you ever wanted to truly understand the levels concept, Brady delivers one of the deepest dives you'll find anywhere, covering everything from its foundation to explosive tags, compressed formations, constraints, and red zone applications. Here's Brady.
Hi, my name's Brady Walz. I'm currently the tight end coach at Dowling Catholic High School in West Des Moines, Iowa. I used to be the offensive coordinator at Ankeny High School. I also coached in Oklahoma for a little while. I was the offensive coordinator at Broken Arrow and also coached the run game and offensive line at Jenks High School in Oklahoma. I'm going to be sharing with you guys on the levels concept. So I'll be doing a 3-video series. The first one will kind of be the foundation of levels, a little bit of history, kind of going with, Peyton Manning and Tom Moore, and then some of the run and shoot coaches as well. The second video will be some of the tags that we would throw in there on levels to make the play a little bit more explosive. And then the last thing I will show will be some of the different compressed formations, constraint plays, and concepts that we would throw, and also then how we would use levels in the red zone and how others are using levels in the red zone. So it'll kind of be a culmination of the three.
If you've listened to the Passing Lab podcast, you've heard these coaches explain what they believe. Now you get to see how they actually coach it. You see the film, how they teach, you'll understand how they install it, and see the adjustments they make when defenses change the picture. The Passing Lab includes 15 on-demand clinic sessions you can watch on your own, plus 2 live interactive sessions July 8th and 9th, which will also be available on demand. Those are a coaches roundtable and an interactive workshop where you'll get to hear these coaches work through ideas, answer questions, and solve real offensive problems together. Whether you're installing a new passing game, refining what you already do, or simply looking for better answers as a play caller, I think you'll come away from this clinic with ideas you can use immediately. You can register today by visiting the link in the show notes. Off-season access is just $39 for 60 days, or if you'd like to keep all of these presentations, lifetime access is $79. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you inside the Passing Lab.